All right. May I request all of you to just have your, if you don't mind, keep your cameras on. It just kind of helps. And, we'll have an interaction. I know some of you could be in places where you would not want them, but at least for the beginning of the things, we all can have our cameras switched on. Just to begin, I'll introduce myself and then we can have a quick introduction from everyone. Were you all able to download the workbook? Do you all have the workbook downloaded with you? Prajna,
Yes.
Priya. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Smita. So, just a brief introduction about me. Hello, Neha. I couldn't make out what you were saying.
Sorry, I forgot to mute myself. Can you hear
No,
me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. So, just again, a quick check. Please download the workbook because we are going to work on it. So that's important. Uh, about me, I'm Richa Mehrotra. I'm the Chief of Staff at Inventure Academy in Bangalore, and I'm also an IBIN. I'm a program leader, and I've been with IB and working in various IB schools as MYP coordinator for more than 7 years now. And now I would say I'm well versed with IB and IGCSE. So, I kind of balance both the worlds and look through things. Our session, I'll begin by sharing the screen. So, in today's session, I hope the screen is visible to all. Anybody could just, let me know if the screen is visible.
Yes, yes, it's visible.
Perfect.
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Thank you. So, what we are really going to look today is we are going to see how we want to master classroom excellence. While we know our subject, we know our content, but the dynamics with the students, how a classroom works, whether you are a new teacher, whether you are a teacher who's been and want to be more efficient, whether you are a head of a department, a coordinator, or maybe at a position of a principal or a vice principal, it's extremely important to teach your teachers or yourself be a master in classroom management, because the crux of any educator as a learner or as a supporter into an education system lies in the fact that we all need to be able to manage our students in classrooms. And my session is basically based on a book which is called Teach Like a Champion, one of the bestseller books by Lemnov. And this is a very, very practical guide full of strategies. What I really like about this book and when I work with my teachers is that, teaching is an art and great teachers can be learned. So, we all are basically a work in progress. If we apply certain strategies, certain techniques, we can have a very effective, a very engaging, a very impactful classroom. And we all know as educators, for all of us, the most important thing is to be able to have and a culture in our classroom, in our school, in our environment where the students are learning, there is positivity, and we enjoy that whole system. I'm sure you all will agree with me on that. Uh, those who have just joined in, please download the workbook because we are going to be working around it. So, any of you, before we move on, would like to share if you have by any chance, seen this book or worked on the book. Have you heard about this book? Anyone?
Uh, can you
Yeah,
please let me know where to download the workbook?
I have reshared it. So just see, you should be seeing the workbook in the chat box. Sonika, do you see it now?
No, it's not visible in the chat.
Okay, I'll just reshare because others were able to download. I think those who are joining new might not be able to see the previous chat, and that could be a hindrance. So I hope it's with you now. Or anybody else, if you could share it in the chat box for all of us, that will be great. So, just to begin, our instruction is we are going to simultaneously work on this workbook. It has strategies because it's a very, very practical session. We are going to be looking at four major parameters in a classroom, focusing mostly on our middle school students because that's an age group which uh, needs effective classroom management just by the nature of a child who's developing between the age group of, let's say, 11 to 16 has that, sometimes you could call an unrest or, an assertion towards the world. So they can, you'll have students who are a little disruptive. You could have students who are a little distracted. You can probably sometimes, we all have those classes which are difficult to deal. So this is where we are coming from. This workbook is made from the book. If you could see, it's called Teach Like a Champion, and this session will be more like a self-assessment, a collaboration, and a tool. And I'll be opening up the workbook here itself too. So what are we going to look? We are going to look at the four major parameters that how do we establish a very positive classroom culture? How do we look at engaging and challenging students? What do we do and what are some of the best strategies for maximizing classroom management? And of course, as being IB learners, we all know that differentiated instructions are important. And how do we really have a classroom strategy rather than, having just differentiated worksheets? What are some of the strategies that could be applied in the class to help us in differentiation? Finally, we will conclude and work forward. So just anybody who could tell me, what do you really understand by a strong classroom culture? What is a strong classroom culture? So I'll stop sharing. I request if you all could probably, turn on your cameras. Do you ever feel a need that there should be a culture in your classroom which should be a positive culture? Do you believe in that, and do you see that it happens? Any anybody who would like to share?
Yeah, can I
Smita, I'm
say
just
something?
going. Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, I think when you talk about a good classroom culture, it's like students really know what they are supposed to do. You don't really have to make an effort in reminding and telling them as they enter the class. Like we have the system of five non-negotiables to establish a classroom culture. Like,
Right, right. So probably you
you
have
enter the
established
class
an
and there are these
essential.
five non-negotiables that we follow. Yes,
Excellent.
yes. So it's
Some
like
people
you
call
already
them
set the tone for
essential
the class.
agreement. Yes, some call
Yes, yes,
essential agreement, some call it, something, but you've made it, and that's whichever grade you go, the section you go, you have some essential agreement that make it your
correct,
classroom culture.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
that's again, that's one of the strategies that we follow. Yeah, I had another, I think Neha, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I was also wanting to share about essential agreements, like how we agree as a community upon a few things. So it really helps when you speak to the group and get it out from themselves. Like, so they tell what they want for their class, their community, and growing together. So establishing a culture that it is for us as a community, and we grow together as a community.
Right, excellent. I do agree that this is one of the things that we all can do and establish, but there are many more. Here, what I'm talking about is that essential agreement is a part of establishing a positive culture in the classroom. In an overall canvas, the positive culture could have a lot more norms. And it begins by you visualizing as a teacher as to how you want the conduct in the class. Because each year, each section, each grade, you're going to have different elements, different kind of students. So what I want to share is just a few strategies that help. And before that, yes, Priya, over to you. You've raised
Hi,
your hand.
Richa. Thank you. So I also think that apart from setting norms in a classroom, it's important to have a space that as soon as children enter the classroom, it feels like a happy, safe space, an environment that is, conducive to learning and where children know that none of their questions are going to be, they can ask any kind of, no questions. There's like no holds barred, which kind of opens the classrooms for many discussions, and keeping their interest peaked, I think, is really important. So when you generate any kind of interest, when they know clearly what they're supposed to do, when they know the environment is safe, I think it really sets a very positive environment which is conducive to learning.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. And what you're saying is exactly like, we have to create that positivity that the the learner feels safe. And this includes a learner who has high grade intelligence. Maybe the needs are different. There is an average learner who probably is, in the class with the bunch, and there is a learner who is probably, struggling. The struggle could be at an emotional level, the struggle could be at a social level, the struggle could also be at an academic level. And remember, especially when we deal with middle school students, they are also going through different changes in their life cycle, where they are moving from, let's say, being just a child to, a youthful adult. So they are going through too many things. So it's important for that. So amongst from the book, I have picked up four major strategies that really help in establishing an overarching atmosphere which is positive. So if we look through the workbook, we see four major strategies, which is like positive framing strategies, a strong voice, warm and strict, and ratio. So while we establish essential agreements, while we want everybody to be included, these are four major strategies that I have seen across the years with my experience that have always worked. The first one being the positive framing strategy. And I'll tell you what is positive framing is that whenever you're reaching out to your students, whatever we all are doing with our learners, it always has a positive note and it has a positive onset to the things. So the language, when a teacher, when probably you would have seen in your departments with your principal, if they set a positive tone to the school, everybody kind of follows suit. It's very similar for a teacher in a classroom. So how you establish that, it makes a lot of difference. So remember, while you enter your classrooms, while you train your teachers, while you work, always ask them that they whatever they are doing, whatever they are talking, it has to have a very positive framing attitude to it. Your language really makes the difference. And this is the first question. Since we may run short of time, I would not like you to do the reflections right now, but go through the strategy at your own pace, think about it, and think how you can apply it in your classroom and what are the challenges you might face. Because remember, it's not that always you can be positive. So there could be some challenges you might face. How you are going to overcome that is very important when you establish this strategy. The next important thing I want to share is a strong voice. So while we all know that, a teachers, by the virtue of it are loud, but that doesn't mean that, you are controlling the class. What we really mean by a strong voice over here is that you have the confidence, the authority, and the clarity of your instruction. Any teacher, if you look, there's a big difference in a teacher who's able to give instructions with clarity to a teacher who probably goes in and around or is in across the places with the instructions. And that is where strong voice plays a very key role in establishing a positive culture in your classroom. I really, would ask all of you to rate yourself and see where you stand in terms of strong voice. A very common example that, is a fun fact is while we take, when we have house helps, remember we are always calm and confirm with them. So that's an important strategy because that brings the positivity. So while we are positive, we are kind, we are nurturing. We also set up high boundaries and high expectations from our students. That's something that's very important for a positive classroom. Anybody who would like to share anything on this note as I move to warm and strict, another strategy, and would like to share or resonate with what I'm saying? I can't see a hand raised, so probably, you would just have to speak up. Uh, Priya, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think this is a really important point because I think the culture of education has changed so much in the past couple of decades. How teachers, like earlier, it used to be largely teacher centric, and then, you know, especially when IB was introduced to India and the culture of a classroom where it needs to be student centric. I'm of the opinion that it needs to be a good blend of both teacher and student centric. And when teachers take charge of a classroom, children feel more safe and sure about what they are going to learn. Because at the end of the day, I think children need to understand, um, that there is an adult who will teach them something that will be of use to them. Because left to the children, if we just hand over the reins to the children, and let them take control of the classroom completely, we might not see the results that we want to see in terms of participation. When you talked about children who may be a little, um, maybe not that confident, or maybe unsure of their questions or their answers, so it's great to have like a teacher who is a moderator, and the students know, like I stressed on the fact of a safe space, but they also know that there is someone who will also take charge and navigate difficult situations if possible. So I think that's a very important point you mentioned there about a strong voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And strong voice, like you said, there is an adult. I would add another word to that adult. I would say there's a mature adult. So remember, and especially when we deal teenagers, we really need to be the mature adult in this space. So
Hmm.
a strong voice and a warm and strict attitude is what is required. Like you said, maybe especially for those who have, studied in different boards, IB is an extremely student-centric approach, which is definitely the best approach. So it's extremely important. What also happens is people think, oh, that does that mean that, we do, or, the class does whatever the students want. That's not the scenario. It's always the balance. So you need to have a strong voice. You need to be warm. You need to be strict. Like I said, you are nurturing, you are kind, you are calm, but you have high expectation and high boundaries. And that is what is important, because if these things don't exist, like we can have essential agreements, we can have different strategies, but if we do not have these kind of cultural norms in the classroom, the class might fail miserably in executing them. So again, similarly, we have warm and strict, work on that. And then there's a beautiful strategy which is excellent in self reflection. And I would say that all of you can use at the end of a unit and then see how you incorporate is ratio. So remember, we are also humans. We are just teachers. We are the adults in the classroom. So not all interactions can be positive, happy, nurturing all the time. But keep in mind that you have a high ratio of positive interactions versus negative interactions if they are happening. Or if you are telling the class, see, this is not working out, you've been disruptive, you come late to the classroom. There are scenarios that you genuinely have to deal being practical. So keep the ratio of positives more than the negatives. That's a very, very important strategy. And many times people don't realize it, but this is at the end of the day, which actually keeps a positive culture in the classroom. So I hope these, will help you establish that. And we are now going to look at certain strategies which help us establish, high engagement, and we challenge the students. Because remember, yes, one thing is we have established a classroom culture, we are ready to it. Now, how do we make our interactions with our students in such a way that they are highly involved and highly engaging? Also, to establish ratio, before I end, I would say I've put it as a reflection question. Monitor your class for a week and see how your interactions are. And then keep in mind consciously that I'm going to establish a positive culture, and I'm sure you are going to bring up that change. One of the best strategies I've seen in this book and I've seen apply at various levels in engaging and challenging students is a no opt out. So remember, we all have those students who say, I don't know the answer, I can't answer, or they don't answer. We all have those bunch of students. I hope you all agree with me. Do you agree with me that we have those students who do that? else, and then you all have a very good class. Okay, I have one person agree with me, but yeah, most of the
No,
time
no,
we do have
absolutely
those
have.
students. Yeah. And so what is most important in these areas is the fact that we adopt a strategy where our students know that it's a non-negotiable not to participate. And this strategy is called a no opt-out strategy. So in this strategy, what we really do is we either redirect the question, we are ready to have them have a partial answer, they can discuss with a friend and come back. You can coach them, like give them a little bit of nudge or an answer and then re-ask. You give them a wait time and say, okay, I'm going to come back to you. There's a positive reinforcement, think in this direction. There is scaffolding, there's an affirmation, even if they have not given a correct answer, or they say, I don't know, I'm not going to do it. Say, yeah, let's try out. So what here I'm trying to say is that over the period of time, if your students know that this teacher believes in no opt out, they will stretch themselves and they will start thinking, and you will have a highly engaged classroom. And remember, as IB teachers, we all believe in including everybody. So no opt out is an extremely important strategy for that student who would never speak up on their own, for that student who probably is not yet confident and feels that I may not be answered, or that student who has decided, I'm not going to answer, I've just come to the school to meet my friends. It really, really works. And I request all of you. So you can probably have this as a part of your unit planners in your learning engagements, add that, but adopting no opt out and making it explicitly clear to your students that when we are having this discussion, it's a no opt out. So there could be times when they can opt out, but this is probably a no opt out. And that is going to probably help. Just to let all of you know that this meeting might end in 10 minutes, so we will rejoin and we will continue because we would require more time. The other important strategy that we all will use is right is right. And again, very good, a little contradictory to no opt out, but right is right means this really helps science teachers, math teachers, is when you expect and that the answer has to be accurate. And you just cannot answer something which is, there are so many times when we just say good job, oh you did it, and we are only seeking the right answer. And this is setting up a high expectation for our students. This is extremely, extremely important, so you don't give partial credit. There is a high emphasis on quality. The teacher models it. There is no guesswork involved. And you are correcting and giving them constructive feedback there and then. This is a quality that really, really helps while you are establishing a strong, engaging culture for high quality. Yes, Neha.
I agree to this, like how you mentioned, maintaining a strong quality while you're giving feedback. So it's more like combination of feedback and feed forward. So you also tell
Exactly.
them exactly what to do, and give them the next steps. So guide them to the next step along with giving the reflective or feedback. So feedback
Right.
and feed forward. So this works beautifully.
Yeah, it really, really works beautifully. What I would also say is while in opt out, you're scaffolding, you are making them okay, it's okay to answer partially. So, you should know the time and your students should know when it's a no opt out. But when it's a time for right is right, then they should know that
Right,
this is what is expected. And what I would say
right,
is eventually use no opt out so that you have a highly engaging class and slowly move on to something like a right is right or to stretch it, which is another extension where you try to deepen the understanding of the student. Remember, as a middle schooler, they have passed pyp, they are in middle school, they will strive for dp. They need to have a very deep knowledge, whether it is for their personal project, whether it's for research in individual and society. It's extremely important. So our next strategy here is stretch it. So whenever you think about how you are going to have a highly engaging classroom and you are going to involve all learners, I would say keep these three major strategies in mind. Think about beginning with no opt out. When you establish a culture of no opt out, move on to having, moving on to having a right is right and stretch it so that you have a classroom where It is no compromise on quality. It is warm, it's conducive, and it is involving all the students. Again, before moving to how we really maximize classroom management, I would say this meeting is going to end being Zoom, we all know, but I'm going to log back again and I would request all of you to log in back. I hope you all have your workbooks. While I really wish that we worked on all the questions together, it's not possible, so we will go through all the strategies. Now we all know that classroom management in itself, and what I've seen is teachers in their early years, when they come, there are times when a middle school student can take you off the ride, or a class can also take you off for a ride. Here, it's extremely important for a teacher to learn a good classroom management and maximize the utility, because time is a very, very scarce resource for teachers. We all know the moment the school starts, there would be formatives, summatives, meetings from one class to the other. There would be events where the students will go. So our classroom management actually saves us time and gives our students good learning. So here the strategy is 100%. Very, very similar to no opt out. But here, what this strategy is doing is it is that the strategy focuses on ensuring that all students are actively engaged and participating in all the time. So you make sure that there is 100% participation. This is an expectation that you set up at the beginning, and you continue doing it across, not just in discussions, it's in the homeworks, it's on reaching on time, it's on any time. And you are using random selection when you are doing it, so they know that they cannot have easy groups. It's a very inclusive environment. Also, what is very important when we want 100% as a strategy is that we are giving timely feedback, because if we want all our students to be involved, keep learning and moving forward, a timely feedback plays a key role. So this is something that we could all use and work on it. So what I would say is, in your spare time, reflect on how is the level of engagement of students in your classroom. Let's say you feel 50% are always involved, but those 40 can do really better, and those 10% I really need to take them forward. Think of how you are going to be putting, and I would say put these strategies into your unit planner, into prior, to the teaching, that this is the strategy I'm going to adopt. Spell it out loud to your students so that they are with you on this, and they know that at least in this unit, maybe you can begin by saying this unit means 100% participation. This is how I want it. Another beautiful strategy that has never failed any teacher, and I love it with my students, my teachers do it, is do now. Do now is a strategy which might take a little bit of time for you to establish, but do now means that the moment the teacher has said do now, is that they just follow the instruction that's been given and start working. It works beautifully for a surprise formative. It works beautifully as consistency. It can be, an opportunity for discussion. So put on the instructions, let's say my school uses Canva for the students. You could be using Schoology or whatever. The instructions are already given, the read and come, or it's already put there. You say read the instructions and do now. Works very well in comprehensions, works well in critical thinking and case studies, but do now strategy is very good. What's important is teach the students that the moment the teacher says do now is when they do not think of more questions or this thing, but try to understand what has been given and start working on it. This is extremely effective in managing the time in the classroom. Mamta, would you like to share something? All right. Anybody who's using Do Now, because I have seen excellent results with Do Now. And I know exit ticket is something that we all use very, very commonly. It's an extremely powerful tool, can be used in assessment, can be used in knowing what's happening. I use it for planning my date for the formative. So I ask the students, and that always works. I use exit tickets for setting up expectations when the research work needs to be submitted. So again, an exceedingly important and a wonderful strategy that really, really works and also establishes accountability. Exit tickets also help me understand if the students have really understood the topic or do I need to revisit it. So this is again important and really, really helps. Again, just a reminder, we have 2 minutes left. We are going to log back and we'll continue our discussion. I'm going to move on to the fourth pillar, which is the strategies for differentiated instructions. We are going to move and do it when we move further, but just kind of let's recap because I've been really fast that when we are looking at strategies of a good classroom, we are thinking that first we are going to establish a positive culture. We will have an engaging and challenging student environment, and we will manage our classrooms. Yes, Sonika.
So I just wanted to add for the do now strategy,
Yes.
like whenever I have a planned leave, I plan a task and then put it under the do now, so that the classroom culture still maintain and also supports the teacher who is present there on my behalf. So I have tried that and it really works well.
Right. I mean,
But
and that's a
the set of
wonderful
instructions,
strategy.
yeah, the
Yeah,
set of instructions are all, printed and kept in hand for the students, and the teacher who's walking in is also aware of the activity that goes on, but that gives a no compromise barrier, and the message reaches the students that yes, this is going to be taken seriously once, I am back to the class, and there's a follow up also for this. Yes, I just wanted to share that.
excellent. Yeah, no, this is beautiful because we all have to take those leaves, and this is where this can be used. Do now is an amazing strategy for sixth, seventh, eighth graders. I would say even 9, 10. It works beautifully because they are ready to just absorb the instruction and work on their own. So do now really helps, and it helps save us the time. Let's do one thing. Let's log out from this. It's less than a minute, and we will all log back again and work on differentiated strategies. Shall we do that? All right. Let's meet in the